Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
But CBS Sports website has declared the winner. He had the closer tiebreaker score.
Are you sure that's why his name is ahead of Dan's? Maybe it's an alphabetical thing. I don't know. I don't know why his name is higher. I really don't.
Well, no, that's why. He picked 151 and the other guy had 153, and 151 was closer to the total score.
Or maybe it's just because Darren used an uppercase D and Dan used a lowercase d, and the computer doesn't understand, so it's sorting it alphabetically.
Okay, well, you have a problem then, because you're taking back with you the fabulous prizes that we got out of our prize closet.
Yes, I am.
And the first place prize is a little bit better than the second place prize.
It is a little bit better, yeah.
So
in fact, it's much better.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello.
Skippy.
Hey, what's up?
How are you?
I'm great. Saturday afternoon. Little podcast going on.
I was outside today. I don't know about Montreal, but it's freezing here in Toronto.
It was so cold here this week. There was one day, I don't know if you had the same thing in Toronto, the wind. We had wind.
We had a very windy day where some trees fell down.
Yeah,
So it's got to be really windy for that to happen.
I went to a restaurant for some takeout, and I know the owner, and I asked him, like, what's going on with the wind? Did you guys, like, feel it? Because he has these glass doors, like, the whole restaurant is, like, glass. And he's like, yeah, a couple of times I really thought the door was just going to fly off today.
Was that the same restaurant that I went with you once to pick up food where we met Cartwright?
No. Cartwright is a Chinese restaurant.
Because when we went, it was a windy day, and it was freezing in the restaurant when we were waiting to pick up our food. And we met Cartwright.
Yeah, it was just right out of Seinfeld. We had, like, exactly what happened to him in Seinfeld.
Excuse me, I'm expecting a call. Costanza?
Yes, I just got a call. I yell, Cartwright! Cartwright! Just like that. Nobody came up, I hang up.
She called. He yelled Cartwright. I missed her.
Who's Cartwright?
I'm Cartwright.
You're not Cartwright.
Of course I'm not Cartwright!
Yeah.
No, this is another restaurant called
Okay.
Mushi. It's just,
Okay.
it's like a Japanese bowl style place.
Hey, by the way, it snowed here this week, too.
Yeah, a little bit here too. I mean, I guess eventually we'll get spring. But I mean, the first thing I wanted, well, before we get right into it, like, I just want to, like, preface, like, how we do this show.
For the new listeners.
Yeah, if there's new listeners out there, just understand, you know, I feel like we're getting back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yes, although that's going to change.
Yeah, I know, but like after we've had a lot of episodes lately and they've all been about March Madness, which is great because we love March Madness. But now that that's over, we're kind of getting back into our regular type of flow. And that type of flow is I come with a list of topics, you come with a list of topics, and neither of us really knows what the other one wants to talk about. Unless one of us spoiled it maybe during the week with a text, which sometimes happens.
Yeah.
And then we go from there, right?
Yes, absolutely. I love it that way.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about, now, the listeners will know that often we do a segment on this show called What Bugs Me. And it's mostly things that are bugging you. And it doesn't have to be sports related, right? Sometimes it's random stuff. A lot of times TV seems to bother you. Broadcasters, schedules, anything on your mind, right?
By the way, speaking of that, on Sunday night, late, the NHL playoff schedule is going to come out, and I'm sure it's going to bug me.
Why? Because you're not. You're preemptive. Yeah, you know that the schedule's going to suck. Games are not going to be. We're not for random reasons. We're not going to have games on every day.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
There's going to be days off, which makes no sense in the first round.
Yeah,
that's true. That is going to happen. So, this is episode 89, which is incredible, actually.
That is kind of good.
Amazing. Alexander McGillney, 89. I don't know.
Oh, I completely forgot about that.
I don't know, just off the top of my head.
Things that bug me?
In 89 episodes, how many times have I done a What Bugs Me? Things bugging me.
Not
Maybe
very
like 5?
many. About that.
Under 10 for sure. But within our first 5 episodes, I did have a What Bugs Me. And it's been almost 80-something episodes where this thing has not popped up because it hasn't been bugging me for 80-something episodes.
And that's impressive.
Which is almost,
it's more than a year.
Yeah, a year and a half getting, and you know what it is.
I do?
It came up this week again.
Well, I don't know. You'll have to tell me because I really don't know.
Tiger Woods.
Oh!
Now, he doesn't bug me at all. He's perfectly fine, If he wants to play golf, let him play golf. If he wants to do whatever, he wants to retire, let him retire.
Mm-hmm.
What bothers me is this guy makes a couple of good swings at a driving range, and then everybody thinks like Tiger's back. Tiger's back? He hasn't been good for 10 years. Like, honestly, Tiger's back. I hear this Tiger's back, and I thought about it a lot this week. By the way, just to give you an update on the Masters, as of the recording time, Tiger Woods was tied for 40th at the Masters.
Oh, so he's going lower and lower.
Yeah, so he's not in contention. He never was gonna be in contention. No one ever thought he was gonna be in contention, other than lunatics out there that have this thing in their brain that won't let go that Tiger Woods is going to be good again. He's not ever going to be good again. Just get with it. I mean, he's 40 something years old. He's he's not only has he been injured for so long and tried so many comebacks, he's old already for golf. Golf's a young man's game now. It's not like it was when we were kids where you could play till forever, These guys are in shape, they're athletes. It just bugs me that there's so much attention paid to this guy. You turn on the radio, you turn on the TV, all they want to talk about is Tiger Woods. What about all the guys that are in the top 10? What about the guy who's in first? What about the guy who's in second? What about the guys who are actually playing well? No one's even talking about the golf, And the whole thing is for the TV broadcasters of the Masters and all the other sports shows out there, ESPN, SportsCenter, whatever, to get ratings. They just want to talk about it and create a buzz, and they get people watching and listening, and even though it's a non-story, right?
So I have a rebuttal. I can't stand Tiger Woods.
Okay, but personally, you just don't like him.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I have a few comments to make.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I hope he never wins another tournament again.
Well, I mean, you don't have to hope. He's never going to.
Well, he might.
Well, tournament, yeah.
He might actually win another tournament because...
But... Yeah.
Other than this weekend, since his latest comeback, which was like a month or two ago, he's actually been playing well. He hasn't won anything, but he's been in the top 5, I think. Even I think he finished second in one tournament recently.
Yeah.
So he's been playing better. The reason I don't like him is because he's a jerk. I mean, he might be the best golfer of all time, but he's rude to reporters. He's rude to he didn't treat his family well. He certainly doesn't treat his friends well. He didn't treat the media well. He doesn't treat anybody with respect.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Although ever since he got pulled over for whatever it was, DUI or something.
DUI. He was basically comatose while he was driving.
Right. I don't know if it was alcohol or medication that caused that.
I think both.
So he was under the influence of something.
Yeah, I think a lot of things.
But I don't know what.
Yeah.
In any case, ever since then, I don't know if you've noticed, Tiger Woods is I won't say he's warm and fuzzy, but he's certainly changed his tone towards people ever since then, because he finally realizes that he has to clean up his act.
He tried to make his persona in the media a little bit more appealing because he realized everybody hated him.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, having said that, and also he's been playing a little bit better the last couple of months. Also, I'm sure he's feeling better physically, which, that's part of the reason why he's playing better. That's all that said. The reason everyone talks about him all the time when he's playing in a golf tournament, even if he doesn't have a chance to win, is because anytime he's playing in a golf tournament, the ratings are double or triple or quadruple what they normally would be when he's not playing.
I know. I read about it this week. ESPN had huge ratings for the first and second round, or whoever was broadcasting it. The ratings on the Thursday and the Friday were huge, 10 times their normal rating. And it's all because he's in it.
Right. And that that helps all the other golfers also.
I guess, but...
Because the more people that watch, the more money the PGA Tour makes, and the more money the players make.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win for everybody. Anyway,
I guess, except for me, who hates everybody talking about
right. By the way, did we not say like 6 months ago that we were never going to talk about golf on this show?
it. Okay, that's it. No more golf. Bye. Let's continue. Okay, let's go to the next topic.
Okay.
This is like 3 topics in one.
Okay, that's confusing.
I texted you earlier in the week saying I was going to put you on the spot on this episode. And that's what I'm about to do right now. So spring has sprung.
It's
And
freezing.
we're in
though.
like in the city where you live, Toronto. It's certainly a really interesting time for sports, right?
Sure is.
Jays started their season. Raptors basically are going to be first in the Eastern Conference and are looking for a long playoff run. And the Leafs are also looking at they're hoping a long playoff run. Although I don't know if I don't know, is their opponent known yet?
The Leafs opponent?
Yeah.
No, you don't know anything yet. There's too many variables.
Too many
still.
combinations, right?
I mean, I
Anybody
can tell you
could
what it
still-
is as of right now. If you want to hold on just a second.
Well, as of right now, they'd have to play Boston.
Correct. But every team is playing tonight, and there's a game tomorrow also. So
Right, and Boston still has, like at the time we're recording this, they still have 2 games left, so they could actually pass Tampa. So it looks like,
Correct.
the Leafs are playing Tampa or Boston.
In fact, the Bruins' 2 games are against Ottawa and Florida, so they should probably win both those games.
Yeah, at least one for sure.
But Tampa's game is against Carolina, and they should win that game.
Well,
Whatever.
you never know.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
So what I'm getting at is, the Leafs are looking for a long playoff run. So are the Raptors, and the Jays season starting with, as it always does in every city, optimism about their team usually. So like, what's your feeling about like the fandom in Toronto? There's so much going on. Like, how do you feel like your friends who are Leafs fans, the people you talk to at your work and in, personal after work stuff, like what are people saying about all these 3 teams?
So to be honest, really the only thing that anyone talks about is the Leafs. And
That's like all encompassing. It overshadows everything.
it does. It has ever since I moved to this city. I probably did even before I lived in this city. Like, it doesn't matter if the Raptors win the NBA championship and the Jays win the World Series, the Leafs will still be number 1. And that's not, it's just always going to be like that. It's a Leafs town.
Right.
I mean, and I kind of understand they haven't done anything in a million years. So I kind of get it. So that's the main thing that people are talking about.
Right.
I'm told, speaking of the fandom, you would think that for playoff games, every game is going to be sold out.
Well, you would think, although we know from last year, Ottawa didn't have games sold out.
Right.
Which,
No, but the Leafs will. Every Leafs game will be sold out.
Yeah.
And even though tickets on StubHub are going to be thousands of dollars.
What about the Raptors?
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. I'm told that you could get a Raptors playoff ticket like the day of the game. Maybe not from, the Raptors website.
Yeah.
But you
from
could
a
get it the
reseller.
day of the game at a reasonable price. I'm not saying it's going to be like $5 or $10,
No.
but you can get tickets the day of the game for Raptors playoff games.
But don't you think that that's going to change if they get past the first round and everybody starts to get excited?
The National Basketball Association.
Because the thing with the Raptors is there's so much doom and gloom always. Like, they've had so many good regular seasons, let's say the last 5 years, but the stamp on the Raptors franchise is that they can't win a playoff series, right? Like, they just don't do well in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, they've won at least 1 or 2 playoff series the last
they've
couple
won.
years.
Yeah, no, they've won series, but like they've been a better regular season team than a playoff team in the last 5 years or so, right?
This is true, but they're a much better team than ever this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they're first in the conference. That's never happened.
No. I mean, I give the Raptors a lot of credit. I think that of all the teams in the East, Celtics aside, because if the Celtics are healthy, it's a whole other story.
Yeah, but I
right?
heard Kyrie's out for the year. Is that true?
He is. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
the
so then
Celtics
it's
are
really
finished now.
we could just fast forward to the Raptors versus the Cavaliers.
Well, that's what I was getting at, because taking if you look at all the teams, like the Raptors are a team, whereas the Cavs are LeBron and 4 guys from the Y, right?
Yeah, but the new
So-
4 guys they got apparently are good.
They're fine, but it's like they're interchangeable. It's
Also,
interchangeable
Kevin Love is
4
no
guys.
slouch.
I know. I'm exaggerating, but
Right.
but you know what I mean. Whereas the Raptors tend to play a team game.
Yes.
The other team that's up and coming is the Sixers, Don't sleep on the Sixers, by the way.
They could win a round, but I don't think they're going to come out of the East.
You never know. My son is optimistic.
Okay. Your son is young and has not experienced as many sporting events as you and I.
I know. I know.
The National Hockey League.
And then in the NHL, we did our hockey preview way back in October, right? And I told you like it was going to be the Leafs had to temper the expectations because expectations were so high, and there was a danger that they were going to crumble under the weight of all the expectations and media in Toronto, and they didn't. They had a good season. They're going to have they're going to have 103 or 105 points, like depending on what they do in their last game, which is a really good year. And now we're going to see what they do in the playoffs, right? And obviously it's tough. Anything could happen in the playoffs. Anybody could beat anybody. Mm-hmm. And now we're gonna see what they're made of, like what these guys are made of. You know, this is where players' reputations are made, right? Like, you know, if Mitch Marner scores 5 goals in the first round, everyone's gonna say, oh, he's gonna always have the reputation for the rest of his life. This is a playoff player. If he goes pointless, everyone's gonna say, oh, Marner disappears in the playoffs. It's unfair, right?
It is unfair. I agree.
But that's the way it goes.
And also, I do feel bad for the Leafs in a way because they're in like, I think they're third in their division, but they're also third in the entire conference, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it worked the other way last year in that the Metropolitan Division was loaded. All the top 3 teams in the conference last year were all in the Metropolitan Division. Mm-hmm. You remember the Habs won the Atlantic. They were worse than any of the top 3 or even 4 in the Metropolitan. This year it's changed where Tampa and Boston are so strong. So
yeah, and so because of that, the Leafs are going to have a difficult first round opponent regardless of who they play.
Yeah.
Because the only way to have an easy first round opponent is to win your division and play a wild card team.
Are your friends who are Leafs fans, do they have a preference of Boston or Toronto?
You know what? I haven't asked them, but
I mean, Boston. I'm sorry. Do they have a preference of Boston or Tampa?
I haven't asked them, but from what I've heard, I'm told that Tampa will be an easier first round opponent.
Well, they certainly are on a bit of a slide right now. Like a slide. I mean, they're still like when you look at their last 10, they're still 6-4. But like they haven't been playing well the last 20-ish games, whereas the Bruins are playing well. You know, so
also. Steven Stamkos is injured, we don't know when he's going to come back.
For me, from an outsider, it appears that that a Toronto Tampa is more favorable for the Leafs because it's going to be a more run and gun type of hockey, which is what Toronto wants to do. Whereas Boston is really going to play a little bit more physical and maybe more playoff style hockey, which maybe the Leafs, we don't know if they can or can't play that way. You know, so. Okay, well, I mean, that's what I wanted to get at, you know, in terms of like what's going on in Toronto, because certainly like we kind of want to talk about the NHL and the NBA because I mean the last week is like they're basically playing out the string in both of those leagues, and we're just like sitting here waiting for playoffs to start in both of those leagues, you know, so and the Toronto team certainly are going to play a role, like in a good, nice, big role, hopefully, in both of those playoffs.
Major League Baseball.
And we didn't really talk about the Jays, who I had no expectations for going into the season.
Yeah.
They lost their first 2 games of the season, so everyone thought, yeah, this is exactly how it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And then I think they won like 5 in a row or something.
Yeah, they're 5-3 now. They split that first 4 games with the Yankees, which was like pretty impressive actually, because like you said, they started off 0-2, they looked dead in the water, and they came back and they won those last 2 games. That Kevin Pillar steal of home certainly was huge, and then the next day Justin Smoak hit a grand slam, right? So
he didn't just steal home, he stole second, third, and home in the same inning.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, in hockey they call it like the Gordie Howe hat trick when you get like a goal, assist, and a fight, right?
Is an assist in there?
I think it's a goal, assist, and a fight is the Gordie Howe hat trick. Right. So like when you get on base and you steal second, you steal third, and you steal home, is that called like the Vince Coleman homer?
I guess that's a good way to put it.
Right? Or
Ricky
something
Henderson?
like that. Yeah, well, he hit actual homers, right? So I didn't want to use
Yes,
Ricky
Vince
Henderson.
Coleman couldn't hit the ball that deep.
No. Or maybe it's the Otis Nixon I don't know.
Otis Nixon didn't have any power either.
No.
But Otis Nixon against the Expos stole second and third and home in actually,
on the Braves.
sorry, he didn't do that. In one game against the Expos, Mike Fitzgerald was catching. I think Otis Nixon stole 6 bases.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So he stole second, third, second, third, second, third. I think that's what happened.
Right. Look, the Jays are exactly, from what I've seen of the Jays so far this year, it's exactly as you described them in our baseball preview.
Except they're in second place in the AL East.
No. I know, but I mean, in that their starting pitching is decent, their bullpen is decent, but the hitting's inconsistent. So when they're going to score runs, they're going to win. But I don't know if they're going to be able to score runs consistently.
And by the way, Josh Donaldson, I mean, he's back in the starting lineup now, but he had to DH for a bunch of games because he couldn't throw a ball.
He couldn't throw.
And so if he has to DH, that means that Kendrys Morales can't play because he can only DH.
Yeah.
So that makes their lineup much weaker.
Right, and the guy that they're using at third base is a rookie, right?
Never heard of him.
I forget his name. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, he might be a fine third baseman, but it makes their batting order much weaker when Morales isn't in it.
Well, I mean, that's what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to just look at the Toronto teams. Do you have anything on your list of stuff?
I have a bunch of stuff on my list.
Sure, go for it.
In no particular order, I took some notes.
The National Hockey League.
So I've been hearing this rumor from different sources for the last month or two. A rumor that the Canadians have a good chance to sign John Tavares in the offseason.
Oh, it's such nonsense.
And I'm wondering, why would they have a good chance to sign John Tavares? He could go anywhere he wants. He's an excellent player. I would love to have John Tavares on my team any day of the week and twice on Sundays. But if you're a free agent in the NHL, a good free agent that can go anywhere, why would you want to go to Montreal?
I'll tell you how the rumor started. Well, I mean, the fans want it, so that's one thing.
Okay, fine.
But Darren Dreger came on the radio here in Montreal, like in December or January, and he said, this is exactly what he said. I don't know why I'm saying this, and I don't have any information telling me this, but I feel that John Tavares has a good chance of signing with the Canadians. It's something that could happen. That's exactly what he said. And then Gord Miller came on the radio in Montreal about a month ago and basically said the same thing.
I mean,
so
I don't know how they think that.
Right. Are they just trying to make a story? Are they just trying to drum up stuff? Gord Miller explained why. He said it's going to require a lot of money to sign him. The Canadians have that money because they've already played with like $8 million under the cap this year.
Yeah,
right?
but now the Carey Price's big contract kicks
in.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, Plekanec is coming off, and they will be able to afford to sign him if they want to. Whereas other contending teams, the good teams, like they don't necessarily have that money, right? So, but yeah, like if I'm John Tavares, I look at the situation here and say, I don't know, like I don't think so. You know, I mean, I think
unless
it's
you
better.
don't care about winning, if you just care about making the most money, then sure.
But I mean, if you're him, you could say, well, I don't know. They have Shea Weber if he comes back healthy, and they have Carey Price if he comes back healthy. Maybe they do have a chance if I'm there. But like, yeah, I agree with you. If I'm him, I wouldn't come here.
Anyhow, it'd be nice to have him, but he doesn't have a French last name, so I'd be surprised if they did that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Some other things I wanted to chat about.
Major League Baseball.
I want to talk mostly about baseball. I have to read you a couple of short articles.
Oh my.
Okay?
This is story time with Josh.
Well, these are actual things that are written on actual legitimate websites.
Okay.
It's because if I just tell you, you're not going to believe me. So this is why I'm going to read them to you.
Okay. I can't wait.
Okay, so one is about Nelson Cruz. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Cruz sprained his right ankle when he slipped on the dugout steps at Safeco Field on Saturday after hitting his second home run in the season's first 2 games. So the guy's on the 10-day DL because after hitting a home run, he walked back to the dugout and slipped on the steps and sprained his right ankle. Like, I don't understand.
All things being considered, like, do you remember Kendrys Morales like 5 years ago when he was on the Angels?
At celebrating the home run?
He hit a walk-off home run the first game of the season. And he broke his leg, like jumping on home plate, and he was out for the year.
I know, ridiculous. How I don't understand how this stuff happens.
It just does. People are klutzy.
Okay, you think that's bad? Listen to this one. Here we go. Royals catcher Salvador Perez suffered a grade 2 tear of the MCL in his left knee, when he slipped and fell while carrying luggage in his house Tuesday night. He is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, shoot. That's bad.
Like, that's even worse than the first one I read to you. And
Yeah,
these are legitimate stories. These actually happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we forget, like, baseball players are regular people, right? He carried luggage in his house. He came home from a road trip. He brought his luggage in. He had to carry them. He doesn't have servants, you know? Like, he's a regular guy.
That's fine.
And he fell. It could happen, I guess.
I mean, it stuns me. It stuns me. Like, you're a professional athlete. The only thing you need to worry about is taking care of your body. And, like, this happens.
It's just,
You know what? You have enough money. Hire someone to carry your luggage.
Maybe from now on he will, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, a couple other things I wanted to mention. Okay, we need to talk about Phillies manager Gabe Kapler.
Oh my God, he's getting so much scrutiny. It's like, he seems like such a weirdo, honestly.
First of all, just to let the listeners know, in case they've been living under a rock for the last week,
He brought in a pitcher without warming him up.
Exactly. He brought in Hobie Milner into the game without warming him up. And so
Yeah.
what happened was, when he brought him in and the umpire realized, okay, this pitcher hasn't warmed up, the umpire said, okay, take as many warm-ups as you need.
Right.
The opposing team, I don't even remember who it was, were upset because, like, you know, why are you letting him warm up? Just because, you know, it's the manager's fault that he didn't tell him to warm up. Why should we be penalized?
Especially in this whole era of speeding up the game, right?
Yes. And
Yeah.
the umpire said, look, I don't want someone to get injured, so just let him warm up. Anyway, Major League Baseball the next day or 2 days later said that the umpire should not have done that.
He should not have, no.
And I think Major League Baseball has since spoken to Gabe Kapler at least once, if not more. And there's other questionable.
But do you know if he said why he brought him in without warming him up? He didn't realize, or like
I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe he thought that he had asked him to warm up, and maybe he had warmed up earlier in the game.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
no
yeah.
idea why.
yeah.
But there's other things that he's done, like
Oh,
he thought about taking Aaron Nola out of a game after only 68 pitches.
Well,
And I mean, that was opening day, so maybe you don't want your starting pitcher to go so long on opening day. I don't know. But
Right.
there have been a few other questionable moves that he's made. And so from what I'm reading online, and maybe we could get Mark on our show one day from Philadelphia,
yeah.
what I'm reading online is that even the players on the team are starting to question the manager.
Well, when a manager brings in a pitcher without warming him up, if I'm on that team, I would also, like, you know, wonder what the hell is this guy doing, right?
So it's just very interesting because I've never seen anything like this before.
Right. No, honestly, it's a little bit strange because he's doing a lot of wacky stuff. And they booed him on opening day, the Philly fans, and right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're still booing him.
Well, I guess, right? Basically, they're saying that the Phillies actually could be a decent team if they had a different manager, because right now he's kind of like the players are not with him, like you said, right?
I mean, the Phillies weren't expected to win anything anyway.
No, but they're a young team,
But
and I
yes.
think they're up and coming, so you don't want to screw anybody up. If you have some
Exactly.
good prospects there, right?
I'm already hearing rumors. We're a week into the season. I'm hearing rumors that they're going to fire him and replace him with Joe Girardi.
That would be a good move. At least Joe Girardi has, he's a professional manager. Although, like I said, he was asleep in the playoffs. He didn't hardly knew what he was doing. I think he was literally asleep, actually.
Speaking of fans booing players,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sure you know this story. The Yankees, they're already stacked. In the offseason, they somehow get Giancarlo Stanton, the MVP from the National League. The guy hit 59 homers last year. Their batting order is insane. They should win every game, except that they don't have
Wow.
pitching, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So they started the season on the road in Toronto. They finally go home to play in New York. And their home opener is snowed out, which, by the
I
way,
saw.
I was going to mention that the season starts way too early. And I know why they started it early, because they want to end it a little earlier. But the problem is you can't start the season earlier and you can't end it later, because in March and in November, it's cold. So the other problem is, and this has nothing to do with baseball, summer starts later than it used to. And I'm talking about global warming now. No, hear me out, because
I think
it used
you're
to
onto
be
something.
it used to be like in April, certainly in May, the weather was nice.
Mm-hmm.
I remember last year and the year before, and even this year now, it doesn't feel like summer at all out there.
No, we're mid-April, and we're going to be mid-April, and we're going to have snow still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Or-
it doesn't
or
really
zero
get warm
temperatures.
until like June now.
Yeah, well,
Whereas
yeah,
it used to
depends
get warm a month before that.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's
I-
global warming. On the flip side, though, I've also noticed that September and October are warmer than they used to be when I was a kid.
I think you're right. I mean,
So the summer
this-
is starting later and it's ending later.
we certainly have no scientific information to back this up.
No,
but
we don't.
I agree with you. It's a feeling that we both have, and we're on the same page. Yeah.
Now, getting back to the Yankees. So they finally played their first home game a day later because of the snow out.
Mm-hmm.
And Giancarlo Stanton strikes out 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And the Yankee fans all boo him.
They should.
They should boo him. But I mean, it's like, you're so excited to get this guy. You just got the National League MVP. Your lineup is stacked, and he strikes out 5 times, and you're booing him. Home run hitters strike out. It happens.
Welcome to New York, Giancarlo.
Anyway,
Welcome to New York.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Well, what did I tell you in the baseball preview show? He's not a good hitter. He's a home run hitter, but he's not a good hitter.
Right, if
He's
he-
going to strike out a lot.
Yes.
He's going to strike out 200 times.
So we'll judge.
That's what it's going to be, you know?
So we'll
Yeah.
judge.
Yeah.
So the only other thing I had on my list is we were talking about Kevin Pillar stealing second, third, and home.
Yeah.
We were talking about Justin Smoke hitting a grand slam. But did you see Edwin Encarnacion hit an inside the park home run?
I couldn't believe it. It's like it was a miracle, honestly.
Well, I mean, the ball bounced the perfect way for him.
Yeah, I mean,
And
If
he
he
was
could-
huffing and puffing around the bases.
believe you me, he was huffing and puffing, which is pretty sad because like these guys are professional athletes. They should be able to circle the bases at least once without getting tired.
Except they're baseball players.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
listen,
not-
they are professional athletes, but of all the sports that you don't need to have stamina,
Yeah,
it's
that's the
baseball
one.
because 90% of the time you're not doing anything.
No, you're just standing around.
Exactly.
You're literally just standing around. Yeah. And in Encarnacion's
He doesn't even play the
situation-
field.
Exactly. He's sitting around.
Although, when he has played first base or third base, he has a very good glove.
He's okay, you know, but yeah, he basically sits in the dugout and 4 times a game he gets up and bats.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, before we go to the show close, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to talk about one thing.
Yeah.
Our buddies, you know, they've been our podcast buddies from the beginning, you know, on social media and following, and you know, we've done our famous crossover episode with them.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Sanderson and Phil Primo from the Semi-Intellectual Musings podcast.
Mm-hmm.
They contacted me and asked me if I would play their promo, which we will play right after I finish talking about it. They're doing this interesting series. They've done a lot of research and a lot of interviews. Apparently they have over 20 hours of interviews that they've recorded with mostly other podcasters, and they are launching a kind of mini series called Chronicity, and it's all about people living with chronic pain. A little bit of a serious subject for our show, but not so much for theirs. So I just wanted to let all our listeners know to please check out this series called Chronicity on the Semi-Intellectual Musings podcast. And here's their promo.
Chronicity, a state of prolonged duration, recurrent, habitual, chronic.
A new mini-series on chronic pain and illness by your friends Matt and Phil from Semi-Intellectual Musings.
We go beyond medical diagnosis to explore the often forgotten political, social, and personal sides.
You'll hear stories from extraordinary people overcoming extraordinary challenges.
Authors, entrepreneurs, volunteers, coaches, and caregivers.
They are so much more than their diagnoses, yet each have found ways to persevere,
You'll also hear some familiar voices from the indie podcast community.
showing that art, creativity, and passion are possible while living in chronicity.
These stories and more, starting April 1st at thesim.podbean.com.
So before we sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, the podcast app of your choice. If you listen through Apple Podcasts, definitely leave us a review. send us an email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. We didn't do listener mail today. We'll try to do one maybe for the NHL playoff preview.
Right.
You can catch us on Twitter @skipandjosh or check out our Facebook page. And as always, go to skipandjosh.com and you can get all the links to everything that I just said. Also, I posted as promised, the 2018 version of One Shining Moment. It's available on our website.
Awesome.
Yep. All right, so we'll speak to you in a couple of days. We'll do the NHL preview podcast.
Yeah. Look forward to it.
Until then, have a great rest of the weekend.
You too.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.